Good morning. My name is Susan Backham, and I am moderating the first collaborated joint endorsement interviews today for Veterans in Politics International, the Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus, Nevada Veterans Association, and the Armed Forces Chamber PAC. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Monzu Italian Oven and Bar, for allowing us to hold this interview process here today, all day. Stephanie Phillips, candidate for United States Senate, and an anonymous donation on behalf of Jerry Willick. We're going to start by having each of the panel members introduce themselves, and once they are finished, each of the candidates is going to get about 45-ish seconds to introduce themselves and tell us why you're running. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Jim Jonas.
Jim Jonas, Director of Veterans and Politics. Good morning, and thank you guys for coming.
Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber. Welcome.
Patsy Brown, President of Armed Forces Chamber.
Donna Darden, President of Perfect Seminars, preparing excellent reasoning for effective career transition, and I'm also a Democrat.
Rob Lauer, Veterans in Politics, and a Republican.
Frank Friends, Veterans in Politics, Family Court Observer, Independent.
Tara Kellogg, the Democratic Party.
Barbara Leuschen, representing Veterans in Politics.
Well, thank you, everybody, for letting me know today what your political party is. So for our judicial candidates, there are some ethical canons regarding that. If you're asked directly, you can answer that question, but as you know, you run as nonpartisans. So we're going to go ahead and start. Louis, since you're closest to me, tell our audience, our panel members, the people that are here with us this morning, and also live, this is being out there all over the place live. Tell us why you're running and who you are.
Good morning. My name is Schneider. I've been an attorney here in town for, coming on 20 years. I'm sorry, that wasn't picking up on the mic. I apologize. And I apologize for the lung. I had been fighting off this respiratory thing. But the reason I'm running is because, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anybody else, but I have always tried to do the right thing, and that's the rule of being an attorney. You have ethical canons, and where we are required to do the right thing, which doesn't seem to always happen in this town. And when I first went into private practice, I had a partner that was actually stealing money from clients. My father was a Marine gunnery sergeant, and he told me, it's not hard to know what the right thing to do is. The hard part is to do it, and you do it quickly so you cannot second guess and rationalize. I turned in my law partner, and she was arrested, and she ended up going to prison for what she had done. And I got a lot of heat for doing that, and I have maintained that. So you can count on me to do the right thing, and I will always do the right thing, no matter the cost.
Thanks, Louis. And so I failed to mention that when Jim Jonas holds up the yellow card, that means your time is getting short. And when he holds up the red card, that means you need to stop talking immediately. Okay? Harvey?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Harvey Gruber. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for 26 years now in Henderson, Nevada. I have represented the people of Henderson zealously. I've been doing criminal defense work. I've done civil work. I'm basically in that courthouse every single day. I believe that the office of the Justice of the Peace in Henderson is important. It's a lot of my clients, most of my clients come into that courtroom more than any other. I think you need someone there with integrity who will do the right thing, as Louis says. And I think that I am the best candidate for the job.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gary Thompson. I'm a sole practitioner attorney. My office is on Water Street. This is my 29th year of practice, and I've been an alternate judge for over 10 years now. 2 years in Las Vegas, 8 years in Henderson Municipal Court, and I actually got appointed last March to the Henderson Justice Court. Had some health issues. I was sworn in finally in October. Still haven't sat on the bench yet. Why I'm running, it's my community. I've grown up there. My dad was a police officer in 1967. He served 28 years there. So I've called Henderson my home, elementary school, junior high school. I like to participate in my community. I've been on several boards and appointed by the mayors of Henderson on different committees. And I believe I have experience both on the judicial side and practicing. I'd make a great judge for the Justice Court. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to remind our panel members that please direct your questions to the candidates as a whole. Let's have a one-part question, not a two-part question, if at all possible. And let's start with not a lot of rhetoric prior to. Let's try to get straight to our question. And I'm going to remind our candidates that you answer questions directly to the panel members. And we are judicial candidates, so we are at all times maintaining the propriety of a judicial candidate. Jim?
Yes, this question is for all three of you. The court can be a very scary place, okay, if you don't know procedures and what's going on. What would all three of you do as a judge to make people more comfortable in your courtroom so that they don't feel like they're being messed over by the judicial system? Lewis, I'll start with you.
Thank you. Jim, it is a scary place for people that haven't been there before, especially kids. So I make it a habit to always take clients, kids that want to go with me to court during the day so they can see what goes on and what happens and they have a feel for it. But I think that what the judge can do is, there's some very kind judges. For instance, Stephen George, Justice of the Peace in Henderson. He's a very, very kind individual. He explains what's going on. He's calm. He's got a very, very, very nice demeanor. Sorry. And I think that what I would do is I would explain the process and I would invite more programs into the courtroom. I really think the Veterans in Politics, the veterans programs are amazing. I'm getting some pushback on the district attorney's office about using it. And I've had Steve come to help me with that. But I think more programs and more humanizing. Thank you.
I think one of the great qualities that judges must have is patience. And with patience and explanation of what the system is and how it's going to go about and affecting a lot of these people's lives who are before the court, that's an important part. And patience, you can't lose your patience. I've seen judges be so short with defendants and with attorneys for that matter. And so that's one of the things you'd have to do. Just be patient with the people in front of you.
One of the things that I do when I'm an alternate judge is make sure that I start on time. Respect everybody's time, and I always greet each person, acknowledge them, and I want to make sure that they understand what's going on. And so it's just what I've always enjoyed about appearing in front of a judge is being recognized and dealt with respect. I respect everybody there. I want to make sure that they understand what's going on and answer any questions and get it done. So.
Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber. Thank you, gentlemen, for participating. Right now in the RJ, there's a trending story about the Henderson Police Department covering up a colleague's DUI based upon an internal probe. Should a case like that come in front of you, would you give special treatment to a first responder or an elected official with the DUI case, or would you, and if you can't answer directly, you can be generic, or would you treat them the same as a lay citizen?
And we're not going to start with Lewis each time for answering the question. If somebody wants to go first, you can. Otherwise, we'll just go up and down the line with each question. Thank you.
I think this is very simple, and I'll say generally, everyone's treated the same. No one person, whether you're the unhoused or you're an elected official or you're an officer or a first responder. Now, it shouldn't have been covered up. The Henderson Police Department should not have done that, but there are programs to get this person some help. And whether they're one of the unhoused or an elected official, they should be afforded that opportunity as well. So yeah, everyone gets treated the same. and hopefully they can take advantage of the opportunities they have before them to fix their issues.
Yeah, there's not going to be a scale of who somebody is and how they're going to be treated in this court. Everyone comes in and they all have their rights. They're all presumed innocent. And so, no, there wouldn't be any special treatment for a first responder.
I like that question, but I've got a slightly different answer. Having represented many police officers, I had a case where a police officer, Metro police officer, was caught with pictures of child pornography. And every time I've ever had a police officer that's been a client or a defendant client, the district attorney's office wants to make an example of them, and they get worse treatment, not better treatment. So we ended up, it was Jim Sweeten from the anyway, Jim Sweeten was in charge of the program that was prosecuting the case. We ended up in chambers with Judge Elizabeth Gonzalez, district court judge, and she laid down the law and she said, I am not going to punish this man any harsher because he was a police officer. I am not going to do that. And I was grateful for that. And it ended up in Time magazine, in fact. I'm going to be very careful about that. Thank you.
Patsy.
Patsy Brown, Armed Forces Chamber. This question is for all three of you. An ethical consideration under Canon 2 of the American Bar Association's Code for Professional Responsibility calls for every lawyer, regardless of professional prominence, or professional workload, to find some time to participate in serving the disadvantaged. Please describe what you have done to fulfill this responsibility.
So over my career, I've taken on clients free of charge, and I've done a lot of pro bono work. When I don't have the time for that, I make sure that I donate each year to the pro bono project. And most of the time, I'm donating time to clients that either cannot afford or are right on the edge. I'll reduce a fee to make sure that they get representation. And that's just been my practice over 29 years.
What I've done to try to help people that are disadvantaged, especially veterans, it's near and dear to my heart because of my father, is I have sponsored vets. Don't charge them nearly as much as I charge anybody else. I've sponsored vets and taken them to Lake Tahoe. In fact, one of them just walked in this room, Sergeant Aaron in the back. He was infantry, and I took him to Lake Tahoe at my expense. And right now he finds himself in a situation where he doesn't have a place to be. So I've got an extra bedroom, and he's driving me around. So I have a hard time walking away from people when they need me, even if they can't pay me. And my staff gets mad at me, and there's one of my staff in the room, and they get mad at me because I can't walk away from people that need me.
Thank you. In my years of practice, I've been on Water Street, right? I've got a storefront, an office front right there, and I get a lot of walk-ins. I will take cases for pro bono on a pro bono basis for no fee or very little fee, depending on the situation. My last assistant was very active in her church. She'd bring me cases every now and then where people needed help. So I do that all the time. I still do it. It's one of the ways that we give back.
Donna.
Hi, Donna Darden here. People in court will come from various backgrounds and cultures in life. Please share any DEI classes or presentations that you have attended in the last year. If not, what value do you feel attending these classes would contribute to leveling the playing field of justice?
We're rotating this. It's my turn. Okay. I'm sorry. Would you please repeat the question? Harvey threw me.
People in court will come from various backgrounds and cultures in life. Please share any DEI classes or presentations that you have attended in the last year. If not, what value do you feel attending these classes would contribute to leveling the playing field legally?
Well,
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, just in case your guys' brains didn't have
I
enough
knew it was
coffee.
diversity. I just didn't know the title, but thank you. Thank you, Judge Barkham. I have not had any classes in the last year, but I am keenly aware that there are prejudices that are often arise. And I've looked at the statistics, and I think that you have to, you can't just sweep it under the rug. You've got to be aware of it. You have to be aware that there, so I think that, again, talking and being more open and learning will help put that aside. I've got a good friend of mine that grew up in Iran under the Shah and then eventually the Ayatollah. And he tells me that there are great people, but they all have hidden satellite dishes that they bring inside during the day and they take them outside at night and they watch Western TV. And he tells me the more exposure they get to the rest of the world, the less militant they become. And he said, it's not people, it's the government. So I think that education is the way to do it.
Every year we take CLE courses. The Nevada State Bar a few years back made it a priority to take at least one for the elimination of bias, which is, it's easy for me to sit here and say, let's get rid of bias. You have to do it, obviously, and as a judge, you got to treat everyone fairly. I'm a member of the California Bar and the Nevada Bar, and I've taken those classes yearly just to get better, to keep it fresh in my head that has to be done, that you cannot just treat everyone. They come from different backgrounds. You got to take everyone's background into consideration. I'm a family of immigrants myself. I'm a first-generation American, so that's what we do. I've done.
So no specific classes this year in DEI. However, when I look at defendants that are coming into court, I understand that they all come from a different background and different experiences. So they're going to look at the court either with some fear, perhaps, or some trepidation that this isn't going to be a fair process. And so I just try to understand that the backgrounds that they come from, the experiences that they've had to get them in front of me that day is going to be diverse. And then growing up in Henderson, is like when I was there, we had one high school, so we grew up with everybody. So we had the kids from the golf course, and we had the kids that were living in the Section 1 housing. So,
Rob Lauer, so tell us your understanding under the law when you, as a judge, would deny bail to someone.
According to the recent case of Valdez Jimenez, monetary bail is supposed to be the last, basically, condition. Okay, you're supposed to start with a no bail situation, and then you go from there. So, what you have to look for: criminal history, failure to appear in court, things like that would make you change that direction from no bail. Additionally, there's also then now you can do. There's PCU levels now that the jail does, where you can put them on some kind of monitoring. So you can do an OR with monitoring, and it's from most moderate to most easy to the harshest, which is more like house arrest. So there are ways to do that, but typically I would look at criminal history and their failure to appear.
Yeah, when evaluating a client, the no bail is the extreme last resort when I'm looking at somebody in there. You're really looking at, you want to make sure that they're going to come back, and you want to make sure that the public is going to be safe. And so you use all the tools in front of you to make that evaluation when you're setting bail or considering an OR or considering putting them on monitoring. So it would be a rare instance that someone would need no bail hold.
I agree with my colleagues. Bail is a privilege, not a right. Really what you're concerned with is are they going to return to court, the safety of the community, and the safety of themselves. But it sometimes is disturbing to me that bails are just so arbitrary, and I think that needs to be more more categorized and more evenly spread across the realm. First, of course, the safety of the public, but I think everybody should get a bail unless they are a danger to themselves or a danger to the public. They're returning to court. We'll get them eventually. That's not that critical, but I think bails can be excessive. So I think that it should be more evenly spread across the board based on charges and history and not so arbitrary.
Frank.
Frank Friends, Veterans in Politics. Lately, you've seen a lot of prosecutors and attorneys and judges let their biases sink into the cases that they're overseeing and not actually, executing their duties as they should. So as an independent, I want to know which party, and this goes for all three of you, do you closely affiliate with? Democrat, Green Party, Mises Caucus, Independent, or Republican?
Okay. So I'm a registered nonpartisan, and that's, I think, a little bit different than independent. So I don't have a party that I'm affiliated with or line up with. I've felt over the last 20 years that I haven't been represented by either the two major parties, and that's been very frustrating because there's policies on both sides that I agree with and disagree with. And so it comes from my background. I was raised in a family with my dad as a police officer. It was a very strict background. And then now I've done 29 years. It was my 29th year of criminal defense work. So balance those out. And as sitting as a judge, you really got to just come in without a bias.
I guess I will. Listening to Judge Bach, I guess we're not really supposed to say we're affiliated with any particular party. The truth of the matter is that there are things I disagree about the Republicans, there's things I disagree about the Democrats. So I think that it's an issue. I can't just join a club and vote with the club. So I will vote with what I think is the best thing to do and not with any particular party.
Before Mr. Gruber answers his question, I just wanted to remind our panel members that judicial candidates do run as nonpartisans. All judicial candidates run as nonpartisans, regardless of what their personal party affiliation is.
I'm a registered nonpartisan, but I tend to lean middle left, especially socially. I think that, we got to treat everyone with respect and accept everyone as who they are.
Tara Kellogg, I'm affiliated with the Democratic Party. My question is, how do you feel about reporting attorneys and or judges for misconduct? And have you done so ever?
I did. I mentioned that when I introduced myself, and it cost me dearly. No one would speak to me. And I actually had an attorney walk up to me and say, "Why didn't you try to help her instead of running to the bar like a woman?" I was offended. I was in the courthouse. I didn't hit him, wanted to. Made me militant to do the right thing. When I finally got back on my feet, I actually pulled out a map of the United States, and I thought, I gotta leave. I can't stay here. But it made me militant to do the right thing. It happened just again recently. I found out a Las Vegas City fire captain was hiring prostitutes and bringing them to the firehouse. This is a 15-year-old child I found out about. I was afraid to call Metro. I shut my door and I called the FBI. He was arrested and convicted, lost his pension. 48-year-old guy making $220,000 a year, and he hurt that child badly. And I got a lot of heat for that too.
In my career, I have volunteered for the state bar, and I've been on the disciplinary panel where we're holding attorneys accountable. I've reported an attorney for violations before to the bar. I've also sat on the screening panels for their violations. I've also been in the client security fund where we try and give money back to clients who've been defrauded by attorneys who have taken money, been suspended and stuff like that. So I think it's important that we keep our industry on the straight and narrow, and that goes with judges as well.
I haven't found myself in an instance where I've witnessed malfeasance where I would need to report somebody. However, I hold myself to a high standard, and I expect that from my the judges I appear in front of and the colleagues that I work with and the partners that I've had in the past. I would not hesitate to report somebody. It wouldn't be an issue for me to report them if they were doing something wrong.
Hi, Barbara with Veterans in Politics. I like to get to know the roots, and this is for all of you. Describe that moment when you decided to run for this office. You know, what was going on? Inspiration.
I decided to become an attorney, and this is really hokey, when I saw the movie And Justice for All. I was 16 years old, and I said, that's what I want to do. I for some reason, it resonated with me. I did that. I've practiced for a long time now. This is not my first time running. I ran in 08 and I ran in 16. I've got to the point where I believed I can do more good work from the bench. That has spurred this run for me this time. I've always told myself I wasn't going to run against friends and people that I knew that were on the job. This was a seat that opened up due to someone leaving their seat. And so that's why I decided, again, to run for an open seat.
So back in 2006, I did sign up for a weekend as a candidate for a municipal court judge in Henderson. At the time, I did not qualify because I did not live within the city limits, temporarily outside taking care of my grandparents as my mom was getting treatment for cancer. However, I did run in 2013 for municipal court in Henderson, and it's something that I've wanted to do, and I have served as a pro tem, both in the city of Las Vegas in 2010 and 11, and now since 2016 in Henderson Municipal Court, and now in Henderson Justice Court. So it's something that I want to do, and I want to serve the community.
Okay, we're gonna. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Lewis always thinks that I pick on him. I really don't, but, sorry.
You just see us in court. I'm sorry. The answer to that question is, and again, much like Harvey said, this will sound hokey, but I worry about who is going to help the people if I stop doing this. And so I never have run for judge before. And then I realized, wait a minute. I can help more people and touch more cases and make sure that the right thing gets done more often as a judge. So I thought about it. I thought I'd like to do that, and genuinely, sincerely mean helping people. I love what I do. It's hard sometimes, and as I said, it's hard to walk away from cases for me. And as a judge, I can touch a lot more cases.
So I think we're going to go back to the first row again. If anybody has a question, Jim, did you want to start? We can go back down the line. If you have a question, great. If you don't, just hand off to the person sitting next to you.
Okay, this question's for all three of you. Once you get elected, this is what I'd like to see out of judges. I would like to see judges be more involved in the community. Last election cycle, less than 5% of all registered voters in the state of Nevada actually voted for judges. And one of the reasons why is because they're down ticket. So judges impact your life immediately. What would you do once on the bench to reach out to the community and try to get more community involvement with the judiciary? Thank you.
So, part of what I do is I am involved. I'm involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm involved on different nonprofits. I'm also was appointed by the city to be on their community development block grant, and I've chaired that committee for about 5 years out of the 13 that I've served. And so I would continue to do as much as I can from the bench to participate in my community. People will know me because I'm out there, not only with the chamber. You'll see me with the city. You'll see me with different volunteer programs and running different community events. And so I would love to continue that, although we do have some restrictions as we sit on the bench.
I spoke of touching a lot of people, and I think that the best thing that I could do would be to go to the schools and address the children in large groups and kids and talk about what happens and let them ask questions and indoctrinate them and let them know about the legal system. I was a single full-time father, raised my son by myself against my wishes. He is now an attorney, and I used to go to his school, and I things have changed. How many of you guys want to get your driver's license? 2 hands and a whole classroom went up. I didn't understand. So I think that we have to teach children, and I think that's the best way to do it. And when I was awaiting bar results, I volunteered at the juvenile DA's office for 6 months without pay, just to help. That's really what that's about. Thank you.
When my kids were in elementary school, middle school, in the Henderson area, I went to the schools. I was, there are certain classes that they took. The teacher asked, would you come in and speak, because they knew who I was. So that's what you do. And you got to start young. My wife has always told me I should do a class in high school about what happens when you get a ticket, a DUI, a domestic battery, because they don't know the ramifications, and they just go off, and it's not taught. And maybe I should have done it. I haven't done it yet. Maybe I will in the future. But it needs to be explained to those in high school. As much as how to balance a checkbook, but don't have that drink and get behind the wheel of the car.
Commander.
Andre. Can you hear me now? Good. All right. Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber. This question is for all 3 gentlemen. In the event of a criminal case involving an undocumented immigrant, and if the law permits deportation, how would you decide on the matter?
Am I up? I think I'm up. Actually, Andre, good question. However, the United States Supreme Court has ruled that undocumented people, illegal aliens, if you will, are a protected class of people. And I don't believe that immigration belongs in a state courtroom. It is a federal issue, not a state issue. So it wouldn't affect me. If I thought that person might be getting deported, if I put them and lock them up, it might sway me not to lock them up. There's a process, and they're entitled to go through that process.
Many of our clients, my clients in Henderson Justice Court, have whole immigration holds on them. So you're kind of stuck because it's a federal system. It's a federal issue. And so when you're sitting there, as much as a judge may want to let this person out to deal with their issue out of custody, it's already been taken care of. Once they get into the system. Before the system, it's a different issue. But once they're arrested, if they're known to be an undocumented person, the feds will step in. So a lot of times it's out of the hands of a justice court judge.
I would have to agree. We wouldn't really ever reach that point where we would have that decision-making power. And so it is a federal, it's going to be a federal question. And so we're just not going to actually make that decision.
Me again. In current events, a judge was assaulted in the courtroom. What measures do you feel should be put in place for your protection? And what do you feel needs to change?
That courtroom specifically had a really large well. And the marshal in that courtroom is set farther back from the defendant that went at that judge, which gave the defendant, who was clearly under some mental health issues. So I don't know that I would do anything for myself. I'm not in fear of someone attacking me if I want to be on the bench. I haven't been attacked as an attorney sitting next to my client. So I think just a better understanding of who you're in front of, maybe not poke the bear with some sarcastic comment at his expense that would maybe set him off, knowing he was just out of competency court.
So I think that particular instance is a staffing issue. When I've been on the bench, and in Henderson, we always have, and if we're going to remand somebody, there's going to be a marshal between the judge and the defendant, and there's going to be a marshal that is prepared to put them into custody. And so I've never felt in danger in the court on the bench, and I think it's just understanding, like I said, understanding who's in the courtroom, and you know what's coming. You know if you're going to remand somebody into custody, and the marshals should know that as well. And so they should have the proper staffing and take the precautions that are needed.
It's interesting that you brought that up because I just did the analysis on that with one of the lieutenants at the courthouse. If you watch that video, all the signs are there. The marshal wasn't watching. He looks around. He sees where he is. You can tell all the signs were there, and that was a training issue. That should not have happened. The other thing about that courtroom is that in that particular courtroom, the bench is a lot lower. I mean, he looks like, if you're familiar with the regular benches, it looks like that guy skied 10 feet. He didn't. The bench was only about 4 feet tall, so he cleared it. So I think it's just training. I don't think there's anything special that needs to be done, but that marshal messed up, and it's not going to be a training video.
Rob?
Howard. My understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, all of you have been criminal defense attorneys for decades. What assurance can you give voters? Why should voters believe you're going to protect victims' rights and public safety?
So particularly, I come from and just raised in the background that my dad was a career police officer in Henderson. From 1967 to 1995, he served for the Henderson Police Department. And so that's the culture I grew up of. I know a lot of friends and family that are police officers. So I respect that side of the law. At the same time, I hold them to a standard. They need to do their job properly. And so I don't look at and defer to a first responder and police officers as them always being right or always, if they've arrested them, then they've done something wrong. And so it's a balance that I've learned through being 29 years of practice as a criminal defense attorney, but also understanding the police side of it.
Victims' rights are a very, very important issue. As you know, they have a right to speak in sentencing. What I don't think is a great idea is that they have to march into the courtroom in front of the supporters of the defendant and they feel like they're overwhelmed. I think that we need to protect victims a little bit more and allow them to say their piece. It's a little uneasy to have them walk in there. And I know that the accused have a right, the charged have a right to face their accusers, but this person, the people that has been a victim, they've already been found guilty. And I think we need to treat people better. There's reimbursement, there's victim witness advocates, but marching them into the courtroom, it's very unsettling for most of them, and that's something that I would try to find a way to address.
In my practice, yes, I'm a criminal defense attorney, but I've also done civil work, and I represent people who have been victimized in other ways. So I absolutely agree that victims have to be taken care of, and there are victims' rights, and they should be listened to by the prosecutors and listened to by the judges to make sure that their point of view is out there. Once a person is convicted and punished, then you absolutely just you deal with that. However, I don't believe that you should take a defendant's rights above a victim's rights. They're both equal in that situation. In fact, the victim probably has a bigger issue there that they've been victimized. I've been a victim of a crime myself. They definitely need to be taken care of.
Frank Friends, Veterans in Politics. So Nevada spent millions of dollars updating their execution facility, execution chamber, and it cost taxpayers about $500,000 for you guys to trial death row cases, and we haven't executed anybody since 1979. You have the Home Depot shooting, you have the least discount liquor shooting where they're on camera doing the criming and no execution. If a case like that came to your courtroom, and please don't duck this, and is on tape and they searching for the death penalty, would you be okay with that? All of y'all.
That's me. I do not believe a civilized society should kill its own. I've always believed that. I've never been pro death penalty. I understand the costs of housing them for the rest of their lives, but I don't believe that we should execute our own, only because I know there's, in your hypothetical, there's video, but there's untold stories of wrongfully convicted people getting executed, spending time in prison. I don't believe, like I said, a civilized society should kill us all, but that's just me.
So, ducking the hypothetical. However, I'll tell you my views on the death penalty. I think it can be a good deterrent, but I think you have to have it in your arsenal. If you're going to say this is going to be we're going to accept death penalty cases and this is a punishment we're going to use, then it needs to be used and actually be a deterrent. No, we haven't executed anybody since the 70s. And so is it really a deterrent? And are we just throwing money at it and talking about it and then not using it? So it's one or the other. Take it or leave it the way it goes. But if you're going to use it, use it.
This is a pretty hot topic, and it's been proven that the death penalty is not a deterrent. It's also been proven that it is more expensive to execute somebody than it is to house them for the rest of their lives. However, I can't say that I'm wholeheartedly against the death penalty, but I do believe that there might be a separate tier for death penalties. We convict people on the basis of beyond a reasonable doubt. If you want to have the death penalty, we should have a third tier, and that is beyond all doubt, because mistakes are made. People have been convicted, sentenced to death, and then proven to be not guilty down the line. So we have to be very, very careful with that, especially since, as I said, it costs more to have to execute someone because of the appeals that kick in than it does to house them, and we don't want to make a mistake. But I would consider another tier beyond all doubt.
So just for our audience members, did everybody answer that question on the panel before I interrupt somebody else? Just for our audience members that are here with us today, and for those that may be listening remotely, death penalty cases are not cases that come before the Las Vegas Justice Court, the Henderson Justice Court, any of the municipal courts. Those cases only go into the district court. Now, while a murder case might start in Las Vegas Justice Court for a probable cause hearing to be bound over to the district court for a final trial and or determination, the individuals sitting here on our panel, any municipal court judges, any justice of the peace candidates, none of them would be making a determination on a death penalty case. I just wanted to clarify that for our viewers today. Thank you. Tara.
My name is Tara Kellogg. I'm with the Democratic Party. What are the reasons a judge would seal a case, and how long do you believe a case should be sealed?
Point of clarification, do you mean seal the record, or do you mean from the public?
From the public. From the public.
Boy, I think it's our transparency is important that the public sees what it needs to see. If it meets the criteria of the sealing, then that's the only, I think it would be a rare case. It would have to be in the public interest, and it would have to be to protect the parties that are in the case. And again, I would see it as a very rare instance that you would want to keep something from the public. I think we should be very transparent in what we do.
Sarah, that's a very insightful question, because it's been abused at the family courthouse. There are attorneys that will seal every single case. There can't be good cause for that. There's a thing in Nevada called the open meeting law. If we're going to use public funds and we're going to spend money, the public should have access to this information. I think those cases should be rarely sealed, and not abused the way it has been. It's ridiculous what goes on. And so I'm against sealing those cases. And if it's public funds, they absolutely should be open. Sorry.
Courtrooms are supposed to be open, and the only time I'd ever seal a case, if it ever came up to me, it's protection of children. That's the only thing that at this point matters. If you've got two adults, I don't think it should be sealed. Just protect the kids.
Barbara, did you have a final question?
It could be
Great. How would you, as for all of you, how would you handle a case with conflicting case laws?
And you guys are going to have like 30 seconds or less to answer that question. Sorry.
Well, I don't know that I understand conflicting case laws, because typically if a case is bad law, it'll get up to the Supreme Court and they'll overturn it, and so you don't have that issue. But if there are two laws in effect that would be conflicting, you'd have to take a look at what the issues are in this specific case that you have in front of you and use your best judgment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a rare instance that you're going to run into conflicting laws. They generally are going to be weeded out in the legislative process. However, if that gets in front of us, I believe Harvey is correct. You're really looking at individuals and making the right decision at the time. Looking at public safety overall is kind of what we're looking at, and then making sure that the defendant's rights are preserved. So.
I agree with both my colleagues, by the way. They're both fine gentlemen, very good attorneys. But as far as the conflicting law in that situation, I would weigh things like people's freedom, constitutional rights to freedom. I would look at their constitutional rights and the protection of the public, and I would err on the side of not violating people's constitutional rights.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. We're going to do a quick wrap up. Gary, we'll start with you. Tell us why you're the best candidate for Justice of the Peace, Henderson Township, Department 1.
All right. Looking at experience, I've had over 10 years now as an alternate judge and seen many cases from the bench. At the same time, I also have a plethora of experience as a defense attorney and family law, bankruptcy, construction defects, civil litigation. And so looking at a well-rounded experience in the law, a view from the bench, both sides, and a connection to the community, both volunteering for the community, living and growing up in the community. I feel like I'm the one that could best represent and continue to represent the people of Henderson.
I believe Donna, thank you. I believe that I'm probably the best candidate for the situation, because without a doubt, you can count on me to always be there and do the right thing no matter what, and with complete transparency, which is not to say that these guys wouldn't do as good a job. They're good people. I want this job. I'd like to get there and be able to help people and help the system.
I believe I'm the best candidate for the job because of my experience. I've handled every single case that would come before the Henderson Justice Court judge as an attorney. Over 26 years of doing it. I've also volunteered time and represented the public at the bar in weeding out bad attorneys as best we could. I've also believed that everyone here on this panel would make a really good judge. I truly believe that. And so it's hard for me to say, I'm the best. Well, I believe I am, but it's hard for me to say that, but I think if Louis won or if Gary won, they do a great job. And I don't really like these guys.
So I would like to thank everybody for being here today. To our candidates, thank you for taking the time to come out. Not all candidates who file for office like to sit through an interview process, so we thank you for giving up your Saturday morning to do that. I'd like to thank the panel members for being here, for your great questions and your time and dedication today. I'd like to also thank our sponsors, Monzu Italian Oven and Bar, for donating their facility to us today, Stephanie Phillips, candidate for United States Senate, and the anonymous donation on behalf of Jerry Willock. Again, thank you for your time, and we appreciate you all being here today.